Welcome to the new podcast, A Mick, a Mook, and a Mike, hosted by four-time Emmy-nominated producer Frank Pace, with retired New York City firefighter and Vietnam vet Billy O'Connor.
Today's guest, Cremo CEO Matt Biggins.
My brother Frank, how you doing, pal? It's good to see you.
I'm doing good. We're 2 weeks into the sale of the new book, and it's going gangbusters.
It is going gangbusters. It's a damn good book, man. We put a lot of work into this book. I'm very proud of this one. I like the fact that it has so many different aspects to it. You know, it's historical in a way. It's an expose. It's an
expose on an AFL NFL merger, which was rooted in mob and murder and money and mayhem.
Yeah, you would never figure you would figure that anything with multi-billion-dollar operation like the NFL would say, well, the first thing we're concerned about, we don't really care if you run a 4.240. Are you an honest guy?
Yeah,
incredibly honest. You know, you're the kind of guy that can't be corrupted. So I mean, obviously, when you're dealing with billions and billions of dollars, it's quite a tale to tell.
And it's an historical aspect too, isn't it?
Well, I'm a history nut, and this old merger could never have happened if it didn't happen at the time it happened in the 60s.
I agree.
Because the 60s was rooted in turmoil.
And he was even more corrupt than it is now.
Well, I don't know about that.
Society was even more corrupted.
That's subjective, I guess. I don't know.
But anyway, you can pick up the book on Amazon.com, acclaimpress.com, or amickamookanamike.com.
But enough. Sales are going good, though. Thank God.
Sure.
I'm glad. Thank you very much for buying the book and supporting this.
But enough of us selling the book. Let's bring on our guest, Matt Biggins, CEO of Cremo, a powerhouse line of men's grooming and skincare products. How you doing, Matt?
I'm doing well, guys. How you doing?
We're doing great. So I brought in a guy who's everything we're not. Tall, dark, handsome, well-educated, as opposed to...
He's tall, dark, and handsome, well-educated. Do you slow dance is what I do. You know? I'm intrigued already.
I'm a Pisces.
You're a Pisces. What sign are you? I'm a Xerox.
Long walks on the beach.
All we need now is let me get my hands on that body wash since it's in a gin bottle. I'll drink that bottle of body wash. We might end up slow dancing.
Well, welcome, Matt. Billy, why don't you...
Yeah, I want to ask him about the shaving cream because, you know, I have... Yeah, well, I know I'm sporting the Arafat look this morning. I can't make up my mind. Should I grow a beard or not?
Did you shave this morning?
No, I did not shave. 5:30 in the morning.
You come here with a man who sells shaving products, amongst other things, and you don't shave.
Frank, I'm lucky I'm not sprouting.
Oh, okay.
I'm interested in, and I always thought this. I mean, of course, obviously, I was born in 1948, so from an old generation. But I always thought that guys that grew beards really should grow beards if they have bad skin, or, you know, really, like, you're a good-looking guy. I wouldn't expect you to have to wear a beard. Is that just a trend with you, or you just...
or are you selling product?
Well, we are actually. So little known fact that our beard products are actually our #1 selling line. So we've actually surpassed the shave. Our roots are in shave cream, but beard care is where we make, you know, most of our revenue actually. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Could you imagine that?
So that many, is that a younger generation thing? I mean,
yeah.
Like I look at James Harden, the basketball player, and he looks like the Smith brothers. Remember the Smith brothers, the cough drops?
Well, I do.
Yeah. He's got that lumberjack.
The ZZ Top.
Yeah. So that was big a couple of years ago. I think it's kind of phasing out a little bit, but what's here to stay, I think, especially with what we just went through the past year is, you know, guys are rocking that scruff or that kind of like 7-day thing, you know, the short.
Pretty much now.
Yeah. So I shave, but it's not every day, right? I think you know, kind of societal norms have relaxed a little bit, so that's more acceptable.
Well, wait. You shave? You mean you completely shave, or how do you partially shave?
Every once in a while. I mean, look, we're not in the shave business. We're not in the beard business. We're in the grooming business,
right?
And so kind of. The way we look at it is, no matter what you do, you shave, you have a beard, you have a mustache, whatever, goatee, you know, Fu Manchu, whatever it is, It's about looking good. So, if you have a beard, great, but just keep it clean, keep it trimmed.
Right.
But I've done everything from clean shaven. I've done a mustache for Movember. I've done this. My genetics don't allow me to grow the James Harden thing, but I do my best. It's a little patchy, but we have products for that too. So it's it's about looking good. That's
Well, I got to tell you, shaving to me. I mean, my beard I got a rough beard.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah, no, I do.
It's rough to look at.
Come on, Frank, I'm a handsome man. But what happened to me, I was 18 years old. I went to the Army, right? And they sent me to San Antonio, Texas in August. It's like 110 degrees in the shade, right? And I got this 6'5" Texas drill instructor, DI, who basically chose his profession. I'm going to get up every morning and break your ball. I do it for a living. I want to break everybody's balls at 5 o'clock in the morning, right? So they give you like 10 minutes. You got to shit, shower, and shave, get outside, stand at attention, and get inspected. So, I'm an 18-year-old kid from the Bronx. I got maybe 2 little blonde hairs on my chin. I'm not shaving yet. So I said, well, I can skip that. I got 10 minutes. I shit, stand in inspection. This guy comes over. You shave today, boy? Because they tell you got to shave every day. It's the first thing they tell you in the Army. Every day, whether you got to shave. So I said, oh, yes, sir. I said, you're a liar, boy. He goes, look at those 2 blonde hairs. You know what this son of a bitch made me do? He made me stand out. I had to get up an hour early every morning, go out into the sun, and dry shave in the sun at 110 degrees, right? Well, after about a week of this, my face was raw. I mean, like, festered raw. And if the Army's intent is to teach you to want to kill somebody, they succeeded, because I wanted to blow this son of a bitch's head off.
Now they got skincare for you. Well,
what happened was, now, of course, my beard got thick. After that, I needed to shave every day.
Yeah.
And shaving cream doesn't do it. You can take a big blob of it, you throw it on there, and I'm really thorough. I scrub my face first with soap, soften it up, then put the stuff on. But 90% of it ends up in a sink, right?
Yeah.
So your shaving cream really intrigues me.
Yeah. No, we hear that a lot. Our shave cream's a throwback. You talked about the 60s. It's an old school shave cream like they used to be, right? Foams and gels were really not invented until a couple decades ago, and before that, it was really thick, concentrated cream, and that's what our product is. What that does is it gets your razor much closer to the skin,
which is huge.
Yeah, that's really the key. And then the other thing is that it's super slick. We call it impossibly slick, but it's just like really, really slippery. It's the main ingredient is derived from coconut oil, and it just makes your razor glide on your skin super, super easily.
Oh, I'm going to be all in on this stuff.
Yeah.
Do you remember the old days, Frank, when you got the razors and you put the razor blade in, and you had to screw the bottom of it? It was like a nowadays you go in and get blades.
Yeah.
And they got them locked up.
Yeah.
Because, I went to check out for blades. They wanted 2 copies of my W-2s, a cosigner. And they said my firstborn, it's like $49 for the blades. So this will save on your blades.
Yeah. And, it's been an arms race with the razors, right? It was 2 blades, 3 blades, 4 blades, 5 blades, 6 blades. I think what we've come to realize is that the shaving cream is just as important as a razor. And if you have a good shave cream, you're doing what you're supposed to do to prep for your shave. You can use a less superior razor because it just gives you a better shave when you're using the right shave cream.
So the right shave cream.
Yeah.
You and that slippery oil. You wish you had that in Vietnam a couple of years back, didn't you? But we won't go there.
Frank, I was just a man protecting my country, Frank. We all serve in different ways.
So, Matt, you gave up. You probably had a lifetime job at Nestle's, and you were the brand manager for Halloween. Were you a Halloween brand manager?
I was at one point. Yeah, I managed our seasonal business. Halloween for confections, the division I was in, that was the biggest business, right? Halloween's like the Super Bowl. So I managed that business, and believe it or not, you work all year on those kind of seasonal businesses just for that those couple of weeks.
Well, Nestle's is not just about chocolate.
It's
Nestle's,
not.
It's a huge conglomerate. They have every kind of product under the sun. Right?
Yeah. So little known. little known in the U.S. because Nestle doesn't have as big of a presence here as it does worldwide, but it's actually the world's biggest consumer products company.
Wait a second.
Yeah.
Nestle's is not as big in the United States as it is worldwide.
Yeah, it's not. It's it is big here, and I think the brands that Nestle owns in the U.S. are under different names. So the Nestle brand itself is not quite as big, but globally, it's huge. It's 250,000 people work for the company.
Wow.
Yeah, $80 billion. It's a huge company. Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. You were pulling down a nice salary at Nestle. You had great benefits. What made you want to give it all up to go to a startup venture? And the second part of the question is, did you go to Cremo or did they come to you?
Yeah, good question. So Nestle's a fantastic company. I have nothing but good things to say.
And you were working with my friend Ken Bentley, who was
Ken. You know Ken?
Yeah. Ken was a guest on our show.
Oh, was he? No way. Yeah, he's a great guy. Yeah, he's doing great things for golf.
Yep.
But Nestle's a great company. Have nothing but good things to say. Great people. The people especially are wonderful. And I had a great I spent 10 years there. Great career. I was in marketing, I went to business school for marketing, but you don't learn marketing in the classroom. You learn it out in the field. You have to do it to really learn it. And that's really where I learned marketing. I learned sales. And so it was a great 10 years, but I got to a point where it's such a big company. And at big organizations like that, it's such a well-oiled machine. There's a lot of divisions. There's a lot of hierarchy. There's a lot of process. You just need that because it's such a big organization. And, I started to feel that was a little too much for me. And I kind of felt that entrepreneurial spark, something that kind of just grew over the years, where I want to just go do something a little smaller, a little faster, a little more, maybe a little more risk, but more upside as well. And so I started thinking about that. And then around that time, actually got an email that there's two founders of Cremo, and one of the founders sent out emails to people in the LA area that had consumer products experience. And come to find out later that he sent it to about 10 people at Nestle, but I was the only one who responded. And it was pretty fortuitous. I went to meet the guys. And
what are their names?
So Mike Boone and Kyle Schroeder are the two founders of Cremo. And they had been running the company for about 10 years before that point, and really grown it from nothing to they had their product in major retailers at the time that I moved over. But
it was only about a $3 million company.
Yeah.
Gross sales. Yeah. When you moved over.
Yeah. So I think my colleagues at Nestle probably had my initial reaction too, which was, this is like a blip, right? Like this is like this is less than our marketing budget, let alone our revenue for just our brand, let alone the company.
You almost got as many employees as they were making, 2.5 million.
I did. I had more employees. I had a small team. I only had 3 or 4 people on my team, but that was more than they had in the whole company.
Right.
And so, and at Nestle, you kind of get, and I think a lot of big companies, you get in this mentality that bigger is better. And like I said, I was kind of starting to focus more on not so much big, but fast and growth. So that was interesting to me, and set up a lunch. It was supposed to be an hour. They were based down in Laguna Beach,
right?
And it turned into a 5-hour lunch. I mean, we just hit it off, and we just found a lot in common. And they had this great product. This was actually the one product they had when I joined. And I thought it was a fantastic product, really liked it, but I also saw a lot of opportunity. I saw the model that they had used to make this successful could be so much bigger. It could be, really about grooming overall and all the different grooming categories, not just shave cream. And so it was kind of a nice sweet spot. It was like, okay, a little bit of comfort that they've already got the successful product. It's in a lot of stores already. But there's so much opportunity and runway down the road, and that was interesting to me.
Well, how do you take a $2.5 million product and turn it into a $70 million product in a few years? How do you? Where's the marketing genius behind that? How do you do that? I'm serious. I'm not breaking your chops. I mean, I don't know how many people out there are interested in beard grooming, but I do know that people are interested in marketing. How the hell do you go about doing that? How'd you have your hand on the pulse of the public? How'd you know what they'd want?
Yeah, well, I think like a lot of things, it was a little bit of, but it was also luck. It was timing.
There's that word again.
There's that word again. Timing, luck,
everything.
Fortuitous.
I've always said that anybody who's successful in life, it doesn't attribute a lot of that to luck, is a full of shit.
I totally agree. Yeah. And around that time, men's grooming, has been something that women talk about. You go to the salon, you talk about your products. I mean, that's kind of, always been around in the beauty category. But in men's grooming used to be about just keeping clean. You didn't talk about it. Like you wouldn't say like, hey, you got to try this deodorant I'm using, or you got to try this shave cream. I mean,
Especially growing up in my neighborhood. That ain't gonna happen.
Yeah, you get beat up, right?
You can't even carry an umbrella.
Right.
What's he got, an umbrella? What do you need an umbrella?
Right.
What do you need an umbrella for? You're gonna melt?
Yeah.
You couldn't. You couldn't
So
have.
but about 10 years ago or so, that started changing, and guys, the barbershop thing got big, and guys started getting more comfortable, and grooming products became more than just keeping clean. It was more about how you look, even how you feel. It's kind of more this holistic thing, and so we were fortunate at that time, to really be in this category when it was starting to really trend. And then another thing that happened was when the guys started selling the Cremo into the big retailers like Walmart, Target, there was only a handful of big brands. I mean, it was dominated by the Gillettes, the Procter & Gambles, the Unilevers. It was really, really rare that they were, and unique that they were able to get this little tiny brand on the shelf. And that I credit to them. I mean, they did an amazing job breaking through that.
To your credit, they didn't even really know how the name was pronounced, did they?
Yeah, so that's funny you say that. So when I came, so the first, and I'll get back to how we grew it, but the first executive decision I made when I came in was I noticed that half the people were calling it Cremo and half were calling it Cremo. And even the founders had kind of different views on that. And actually it was called Cremo Cream was the product. And so first of all, I was like, all right, this is bigger than shave cream. We can't have shave cream in the product, in the brand. And then second, Cremo just didn't sound right. I was like, Cremo, that sounds like more Italian, like Cremo,
It's got a little class. It's got a little class.
Yeah, and I was like, all right, someday we're going to grow this internationally, and Cremo is not going to work as well over in Europe. It's got to be Cremo. So that was my first, actually, literally my first decision. Day one was it's Cremo, guys. So a lot of trends were in our favor. Guys were starting to get more into grooming. They were looking for smaller brands, and then it was really about taking this model. A better product, more premium price point. So the category we've kind of created in men's grooming, we call mastige. Mastige.
You got to elaborate on that.
Yeah. It sounds dirty, but it's
that's why I want to elaborate on it.
So does Cremo. So
yeah, right. Yeah, we had to class it up a little bit. But mastige is a combination of mass retail like Walmart, Target, drugstores, and then prestige, which is kind of like what you'd find. Yeah, what you'd find like department stores and boutiques. Mastige.
I like that.
Yeah. So
did you guys invent that phrase?
We didn't invent it, but we were really the first mastige brand in mass retail. So before Cremo came in, again, it was like Barbasol, it was Gillette. There weren't. You go into a Target today, there's 20, 30 brands. There's these little. Cremo now is the big guy amongst the mastige brands. There's all these little ankle biters, we call them, coming after us. But that wasn't the case 10 years ago.
Ankle biters.
Yeah, ankle biters.
It's interesting that you guys made a decision not to go into razor blades, because that would have been a natural extension of the brand, but to go into other products.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing that was happening is the razor arms race was heating up. And at that time, right around when I joined Cremo, two big entrants came into it. They've disrupted the whole category, right? And so we looked at that and it was like, all right, we talk about NOM. We didn't want to get into that battle. I mean, it was just a full battlefield, price war, arms race, whatever you want to call it. And we just thought, let's let them do that. And meanwhile, we'll expand into the other grooming categories.
So obviously you had to focus on the niche to get Cremo into. Like I remember reading years ago about Hertz and Avis, like when they were battling back and forth, and everybody said when Avis said, we're number two, we're the second, we try harder, we're number two. And everybody said, well, they're attacking Avis. Well, they weren't attacking Avis. What they were attacking was all the other companies.
Right.
Because they made themselves number two by doing that. So in effect, you had to find out this marketing niche.
Yeah. Well, and interesting you say that, because there's pros and cons to being where we are, right? So we've got the big guys, and the thing that we have, the advantage we have against the big brands is that we're seen as more authentic, because we are. I mean, there's no sugarcoating or making up things. We really are a small company, and we're making these products, literally when I started in my basement. And And then, but we're bigger now than the small guys, right? We have more resources, we have more budget. So it's kind of a nice place to be. But on the other side of it, we're on the radar of both. So we've got the big guys, we're big enough now, the big guys are looking at us and, they want us to go away. And then the ankle biters are after us too. So, we're on the radar for better or worse. But I guess I'll take that as a sign of success.
Yeah.
Well, in the product marketing cycle,
Yeah.
that's a good thing too, because eventually a lot of the ankle biters are going to fall by the wayside. Because I went through that in the shoe wars. When the shoe wars with Adidas and Converse, and I was with Pony and Puma and New Balance, and all of those companies all basically gave way to Reebok, Nike, and Adidas. And I think Reebok sort of fell by the wayside also and left it to Nike and Adidas.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and fashion's tough. I mean, brands are they come and go, trends come and go. It's so fickle. So that's a tough one. But yeah, I think in our category, we, the gap in the marketplace. Guys really want to use the best products they can. But they weren't finding them in mass retail. They weren't finding them at Walmart, Target. You could find really good products, but they were at, Nordstrom and smaller boutiques. They cost $20, $30. So what we saw was this opportunity to bring that level of quality and that level of product and make it more accessible. Price point, you could go to your local drugstore, you could find it. So bringing that to the average guy, that was really the secret. And then across all the different categories. And then, part of branding, as you know, the product's really important. You got to have a great product, but the brand is as important, if not more important. You've got to really find a way to connect with your consumers. And I think we've done a good job of that. We've associated with barbers. We really kind of latched onto the barber thing.
You got the barber pole. I see that
barber
symbol.
pole. Yeah. We got barber influencers, out there talking about our products. And I think that's a big part of it, is that really resonated with our guy. And so, marketing is really about coming up with a great product that fills a gap, that fills an unmet need, but then also figuring out a way to position that product with a brand that resonates with consumers. And then the last part is going out and find those consumers. And so if you distill marketing down, that's basically it.
Yeah.
So let's go back a little bit, Matt. Where'd you go to high school?
So I grew up in San Diego, and I grew up in sort of like the east part of San Diego, not the part you'd probably go to if you were visiting, but we spent a lot of time at the beach, and it was a great place to grow up. I'd be lying if I didn't say that I had a incredibly comfortable childhood, great family, really, really grateful. A lot of talk these days about feeling guilty about growing up like that. I don't feel guilty. I feel grateful, So it was just I had a loving family, and it was a fun place to grow up. San Diego was a great place.
Yeah. And I lived and worked in San Diego for about 8 years. I was there from 76 to 84, and it was a great place.
Yeah,
I loved it. But then, like you, I left to seek my fortune. I was in an advertising agency in San Diego, making a nice salary. I was 25 years old or 28 years old, and I was making $60,000-$70,000 a year. And I gave it up all to come to LA and follow my dream of being a producer.
Yeah, and it worked out.
It did work out.
Yeah. Similar actually for me. San Diego, when I was growing up, was really a military town, right? It had the beach culture, but it was kind of a military town. It didn't really have the big city feel to it, and it was kind of a small big city. And I just felt I kind of wanted, I wanted that excitement, that kind of big city thing. So I left, and I went to UCLA for college. So I came up here, and really, except for a short stint in New York, I've never left. Love it up here. So.
And how'd you like UCLA?
It was great. I think really unique experience to be in what feels like a small college town, Westwood. If you didn't know it, you wouldn't.
Right.
You wouldn't know you're in this big city. But then you also have access to Hollywood and all the big things that LA offers, the beaches. And I got to a point, my later years of college, where we started shifting from the fraternity parties and going out to the clubs in Hollywood. And that's not an average college experience. That was kind of cool to be able to do that. So it was a great school. And I always talk about UCLA as being a great mix between academics and athletics, right? Like, it's just a nice, well-balanced school. So
you play any sports?
I played a little tennis growing up, but I was nowhere near.
That figures.
My junior year, the varsity team, no one was graduating. And I was like, all right, I have to like get better than someone on the varsity, or I have to kill someone to get a spot. I was like, probably not a good idea.
You got your degree in political science at UCLA,
I did,
right?
yeah.
But from political science to marketing,
yeah,
and where you ended up, I mean, was it Columbia you went to get the?
I did, yeah. So I did end up in political science, but when I went to UCLA, I had this dream of being a doctor, and
wow.
My freshman year, I actually did end up pledging a fraternity, and so I'd come back at like 3 a.m. from these parties, right? And I'd see these students, you know, they were like organic chemistry. What are you studying for? I'm pre-med, and I was like, yeah. And it's actually talk about fortuitous. In retrospect, it's a really good thing I didn't end up in medicine, because I've got this thing called vasovagal syndrome, where if I get blood drawn, or if I see blood, I start to get lightheaded. Yeah. So, I mean, thank God that wouldn't have been a great.
It's like a fireman being afraid of heights.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
like you're in the wrong field.
Yeah,
without a doubt.
Yeah. So that was a sign right there. But so then I had okay, doctor, nope. What's the next thing? Lawyer. That sounds good. All right, let's do that. So, and I also, I mean, I had an interest in politics. So that was really something I was interested in power and all that happens. So I went into political science, and you know, really the intent was to be a lawyer. I got a job as a law clerk coming for when I graduated, and then I went to Italy actually my senior year, study abroad. Met my wife, but that's a long story. But had this like kind of and just reassessed everything and decided that I didn't actually want to be a lawyer. I was just kind of doing it because it sounded important and good. And you know, business. I didn't know what really. I mean, I knew what business was, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do. But it just business, like creating something, creating value. That just sounded really interesting to me. So I pivoted. The problem was that I did that after everyone had recruited and gotten jobs, and all my friends were going off to they had these big corporate jobs, and I didn't. So I graduated UCLA, had a decent GPA, had, you know, good extracurricular activities. My resume looked pretty good.
What was your GPA?
It was so in high school I had like I had over a 4.0, but at college, you know, I had it was more in the mid 3s, so it was decent. It wasn't.
Yeah, Billy and I had a GPA in the mid 3s too.
Well,
I had a 2.0 and he had a 1.5.
Yeah, if you add them up, you know. Well, the problem is what dragged me down. I did fine in poli sci, but I ended up taking French, and what I did. So I had this whole strategy in college to put all my classes on Tuesday and Thursday. So I had these 4-day weekends, but I'd have Tuesday, Thursday I was in class all day. Wednesday I'd study. French and all the languages at UCLA you had to do every day. And so that was kind of a problem for me, and you know, to go onto campus for 50 minutes, it just didn't make a lot of sense every day. So I think that kind of dragged my GPA down. But I graduated. I didn't have the big job that a lot of my friends had, and you know, honestly, it was a little embarrassing because I graduated from this big school. I'd always done pretty well, and didn't have a job. But I also knew that I was, you know, that I wasn't going into something that I didn't really believe in or want to go into. So
then you went into wealth management.
Well, there's an interesting
segue.
Interesting segue, yeah. Interesting for me at least, not the mob or the things you were talking about. But so I went to work for a temp agency. It was like, all right, I got to do something. And practically, it also was good because it gave me some experience. It gave me a view of, you know, a wide amount of industries and different companies. So I started temping, and I ended up at this place called RTC, and I'll tell you what RTC stands for. But it was an event planning, like kind of a talent agency. This is the closest I've ever gotten to your world of entertainment, you know. But
well, you married Kelly.
Well, I married, yeah, that's right, yeah, that's true, that's true. But RTC was this talent agency, right? So it was down in Manhattan Beach. It was run out of this woman's home. Her name's Robin Sharon, wonderful person. And what she does is basically she's the one you call when you want to have a party or an event and you need talent, like you need a magician or you need whatever, a fire breather, or, you know, whatever it is,
juggler, whatever.
Juggler, yeah. So RTC actually stands for Robin the Clown. So that's how she got her start. She was a clown. She'd do these parties. So I'm working in this office, and she's like, "Hey, Matt,
with a political science degree,
political science degree,
just where you figured you'd end up."
Yeah, this kind of instilled some some humility in me, you know, but you know, one day she said, "Look, you know, you're doing a great job. Do you want to just work here? Let's step aside from the temp agency. Let's just do this directly." Okay, fine. And she's like, "Look, you know, I think you'd be really good at doing this entertainment thing at these parties. And so she's like, you want to do it as kind of a side gig? And I was like, yeah, let's do it. So I ended up setting up like characters. And
What kind of characters?
so I did everything from like Scooby-Doo. So one time I was at this little kids party, right? And I'm Scooby-Doo. I've got this big costume on. You can't see my face, like Disneyland characters, right? Kids are loving it. I'm out like, taking a break, drinking a Coke or something. I take my head off. And the birthday boy is like 5 years old. He comes out running to find me, and he sees me with a head off. And it was like this life traumatizing event. Like, never. I think he was like changed forever. I like ruined his whole life, I think. But and another. So then I was a Grinch one time. I was at this big like Universal Music Christmas party, and I had fun with it. I mean, this is like. When you have a mask on, you kind of can
be anybody
do whatever you want, right? So
exactly.
I go into this Christmas party, and there's this Santa Claus character, and all these kids are like, loving it, and they're all surrounding him, and I'm the Grinch, right? So I walk in, I creep up, and I tap him on the shoulder, and I basically pick a fight with him. So like you see like the mascots at the sporty, they get in fight. That's basically what happened. We start to tussle, and I think I got kicked out. But the kids were like, well, they're like Grinch.
For our viewers out there, pay attention. This is the Odyssey, how you become a CEO.
Yeah. I mean,
this is what it takes. This is what you got to do. This is the paradigm.
I mean, in all seriousness, I think being open to different experiences and it kind of did give me this perspective. And if I could figure out how to entertain people in that small way, I'm not an actor or anything, but that has benefits later in life and in business, and so it kind of allowed me to get out of my shell, so to speak. But the final thing that broke the straw there, I kind of have a little story for each place I've been that kind of was like the thing that made me leave. I mean, besides the fact that I was a UCLA grad, working at this agency, but was that I was the Easter Bunny one year, and I had this convertible Mustang. And my costume, I left it in my car, and someone broke into it. I think it was a bum or something, and stole my costume.
Stole the Easter Bunny costume.
Yeah. So if you see a homeless guy dressed like an Easter Bunny in Santa Monica, I want my $150 because Robin, great person, but she made me pay for that costume. So I was like, all right, I got to get out of here. So kind of again for luck, timing.
So you owe this homeless guy, whoever stole that Easter Bunny, you owe him a debt of gratitude.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think he was kind of that moment.
He was the impetus to move on.
The catalyst. Yeah.
So Matt, what's your forecast for this year? Will you go over $100 million in sales this year? What's your 5-year forecast? 10-year forecast? Where are you going in the future?
Yeah. So we're going to get close. COVID put a dent in some of our categories. Things like beard care actually did well because guys were staying home. They weren't shaving. They were experimenting. They wanted products. So that was a great category for us during COVID. But things that were really about how you present. So hairstyling, we have cologne. It was impacted, right? So we're recovering from that. But I think next year we're really going to pick up, and we'll probably get close to that mark. We're going to see some good growth.
100 million.
Yeah, close. I think. Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah. I'm part of a public company now, so I've got to be a little careful. But yes. I think there's a lot of runway for the brand, and one of the things that this company, so we were acquired by Edgewell at the end of last year
for $235 million.
Yeah, $235 million.
That's fantastic.
Could you imagine when you joined it at $3 million? That it would be worth $235 million to anybody.
Yeah.
And what do you think your friends at Nestle are saying now? About that blip?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. No. I mean, when I first joined, the guys wanted me to grow it to 10 million in 3 years. That was the goal. And then they would sell for 20, 30 million. That'd be a nice payday.
So that was their exit strategy.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah. And we ended up getting there in about 2 years.
2 years?
Yeah. And
10 million. To 3 million to 10 million.
Yeah, 3 to 10. Yeah.
And how long did it get you to the 230 million or whatever?
Well, so our revenue now is up around 75 million. 235 is the multiple what we sold for. Yeah, but it's funny as you grow like that, then of course the target gets bigger, and so like 10 million now it's 30 million, and then it was 70 million, it was 100 million. Like I said, it was really about expanding the shave line. Kind of an interesting story. So we 2016 we had this hardcore group of shavers. On Facebook they would they would rant about guys with beards, all those hippies, communists, whatever. So we were pretty firmly a shave brand at the time. But about a year into my time at Cremo, our Walmart buyer came to us and he said, "Hey, what do you guys think about beards?" And we're like, we've looked at it, but we're not really interested in it right now. But at the same time, I started, I call it the red car syndrome. You don't really think about red cars, but when you are thinking about them, you see them everywhere, right? So that's kind of how I started looking around, like, God, there are a lot of guys now that are have some kind of facial hair. I'd be in a meeting, 3 out of 5 guys would have it, right? So it's like, this could be pretty interesting. So we went in, we put together, these concepts. We went in there, we said, look, we've got 8 products that we could do potentially. We're thinking like next year, 2 years, whatever. And the guy's like, I love it. I want it here in June. This was in March. So for 3 months, my whole world was beards. That's all I thought about. And I was literally in my basement creating these products, working with labs. And me and we had one other employee at the time that did everything I didn't, which was like finance operations. We worked together. We launched this entire line of beard care in 3 months. And it overnight made us the biggest beard care brand in the country, which it's a small category, but it's a growing category. And to this day, we're still the beard care category leader. So we're the big guy in the beard category.
Wasn't there a statistic that pointed you in this direction? I remember reading this statistic and it blew me away.
Yeah.
About how many young people don't shave every day.
Yeah. So it's like 60%.
60%.
And that's probably higher now. That was back then. I would venture to say 60 to 70% of guys don't shave every day. They might shave every couple days. But the days where everyone is clean shaven all the time, that's over. That's been over for a while. So it's and what we looked at the time, the brands that did exist were all about the big lumberjack beards, the hipsters.
Right.
But what we saw was most guys don't have that. They've got like scruff and stubble.
So I apologize, Billy, for saying that
I'm
you
cool,
can't
man.
get
I'm cool. I'm hip. I got my finger on the pulse of it. I'm cool.
You are,
I'm
man.
Smart. So dude, that was an amazing statistic to me. I never even dreamt. Like, I always break my son's chops. My son's like 34 years old.
Yeah.
And every time I look at him, he's a good-looking guy, but he's in a picture and he's got a scrub. He's this. I said, what do you think Arafat's doing? But I was shocked to see that stat. And so you guys realized, you obviously were the one that was in charge of marketing, right?
Yeah.
So you saw that, and then you started getting into beard softeners and how to make a scruffy beard look presentable.
Yeah. And that was the big insight we had, was that all the brands out there at the time were going after those big lumberjack hipster beards. Most guys don't have that. So we intentionally designed products that for anything from just like what you have, a little stubble, all the way to those long beards. We have products for that, but we also have products for less than that. And that was kind of I think a big key to our success.
Well, I used to have a beard, and I shaved it off. I had a beard for like 6 months or so.
Yeah.
I shaved it off because I hated it. It was so itchy.
Yeah.
And now if we had a product for that, I might have a beard.
Yeah. That's a big, beard itch, right? So we call
beard
it
itch.
beard itch.
What
Yeah.
are you, beard itch?
Yeah. So what happens, if you want to get
You
technical?
see guys pulling them on it all the
Yeah.
time.
So what happens is when you start growing your facial hair, it starts curving back and going into the skin. And that's what makes it irritating. So if you can get over that hump, then once it's longer, you're fine. And then it's about keeping it clean, right? Because you can get all kinds of crap in there. But that's what our products do. They help get over that beard itch, and then they moisturize and keep everything soft.
So Derek, I'm going to ask a question that sort of relates to Black people, in that Black people have got a lot of sort of ingrown hairs. They get ingrown hairs a lot more than white people, I think. Would that help that problem?
Yeah. So where we get a lot of comments about that, a lot of feedback, is our shave cream. Our shave cream, because it does give you such a close shave but without irritation, is particularly good for razor bumps. And so it does resonate, with guys with that issue. And so we see that a lot. It's amazing when you get into it. There's no one size fits all. Everyone's different. The skin can range from, where you can literally, like you were talking about, shave without shaving cream. I don't recommend it, but you could do it. Some guys can do that.
Yeah.
All the way to, you could use, pure oil and you're still going to get irritated because your skin's so sensitive, and everything in between. So we pay a lot of attention to that. We design products for a wide range of guys. we want to be an inclusive brand that's for everyone. But the thing that really kind of links everything together is that it's an elevated product that's better than kind of what you usually find.
Elevated product at consumer prices.
At consumer prices, right? So the analogy that I used to use a lot, it doesn't work as much now because it's so prevalent, is craft beer, right? Like when you're in college, you're drinking Natty Light or
Natty Light.
whatever it is,
whatever's around.
Yeah, and then you start to make it. You get a little bit of money, whatever, and you start drinking the good stuff, right? And now craft beer is kind of like everyone drinks it, but that's kind of how we position our brand, is that it is that something special. It's got that authenticity, that story behind it, but it's accessible, and that's what really binds everything together.
So are you now, or are you looking toward expanding into women's products?
Yeah, so our number one selling product right now actually is our women's shave cream. What happened was, we have a women's shave cream, first of all. I don't know if you know that, but in COVID, women were not going out to spas. They weren't going out to get their legs waxed, et cetera, et cetera. So they started doing all that at home, and our women's shave cream blew up. And so
Wow.
for being a men's grooming company,
Unintended consequences
right.
of COVID.
I mean, I always say, kind of, because we haven't focused on it, we kind of do it because so many women were using our men's shave cream. We're like, all right, let's do a women's shave cream. Despite our efforts not to focus on it, it's grown like crazy. So, I don't know what that says, but it's been a very successful product. We think that we probably can expand the brand a little bit more into women's, things like moisturizers that you use after you shave, even body wash could potentially be an opportunity for us. So I think we see our brand a lot like Kiehl's. Kiehl's is that, prestige premium skincare brand. It's for men and women. I think I see Cremo going there.
You'll have to put the women's body wash in a white wine container.
Yeah.
So you put the men's body wash in a gin
I
container.
keep looking at that gin bottle.
Yeah.
I got to tell you that.
Was that
I'm a recovering alcoholic. I want to take a couple of shots of that stuff.
Was that a conscious brand effort?
It was, yeah. So we decided at some point that we want to get in a body wash, and we looked at the aisle. We walked down, and all you saw were these like big, ugly bottles. And I don't know if you ever noticed, but most of the body washes out there, the fragrances are like Wolf's Howl and Fiji, and they don't actually talk about the fragrance. Like they don't spend a lot of money on the fragrance, so there's nothing in there they can talk about, right? So they come up with these names. We just saw an opportunity. We're like, I mean, guys want to know what's in their body wash. They're really interested in fragrance. That's like, staying clean. Like body wash, you expect that. You don't buy a body wash because it's gonna make you cleaner. They all clean. So the thing that's important in body wash is how it smells. That's like the big thing. So,
but if you're using body wash,
yeah.
and you're washing it off,
yeah.
I mean, the smell lingers.
Yeah. So we spent a lot of time thinking about how much residual do we want, dude. Like we don't want it announcing you in the room, right?
Right.
But you want like a little something, a little reminder there that you're clean and that you smell good. And so we kind of try to find that balance. But the way that we started developing this product, we sat around a room just like this with the two founders, and we'd go through body washes. Oh, this smells good. Let's do something like this. We realized that wasn't going to fly. We needed, if we were going to be all about fragrance, we got to really step it up. So we hired what we call our nose. We still work with her today.
The nose, Frank. We got a shot here.
We got the nose. She doesn't.
You need a nose.
Yeah.
You didn't come to us. Look at me and him. We can raise eagles for Christ's sake. Look at these two noses.
Exactly.
Well, with your luck, you would have said no to them. When they were a $3 million company, you would have said, no, I am not doing that.
No.
But our nose, her name's Lisa Wilson. She has a company called Scent and Strategy, and basically what she does is she works. So there's these fragrance houses. That's all they do. They do fragrance scents, and they do everything from detergent all the way up to fine fragrance. And she's the liaison. She helps companies like us figure that out. So she helped us develop the product. But the more challenging part about our body wash product was not the product. It was actually the packaging. And we're like, okay, all these products out there, these big ugly bottles, let's do something interesting. And I brought this idea up to the guys, like, what if we did a liquor bottle? Like, that sounds kind of cool, right? And my grandfather, he drank 2 gin martinis every day for 50 years. Like, that was his thing. I grew up in that kind of environment. It's like, how about a gin bottle? And I think at first they thought that was kind of cheesy, kind of corny. And so it took us a while to go through all these design iterations. Well, you can see who won that.
Actually, it's brilliant because I got to tell you, I was in the bar business for years. I mean, I owned a couple of joints, and the gin bottle is the one distinct bottle
of alcohol. Because it's clear,
everything else is the regular cylindrical. Well, your gin bottle has always been square, or
Yeah. Yeah, so we were looking at sort of like mid-century liquor bottles as inspiration, and what was cool is almost right off the bat we got consumer feedback like, hey, I was walking down the aisle and I thought there was a bottle of liquor there. I was like, I got to pick this up. So that's not what gets them to buy it over and over again, but it's what really gets a consumer interested in the first place. Is like, what is this? I got to know why this is sitting here in the aisle. Is it? And then the fragrance is what brings them back. Right? So
it's a success story after success story after success story. It really is magnificent.
Yeah, that was one of my standard lines. So, honey, get out of those wet clothes and into a dry martini.
Yeah, well, we do. We get guys word like, hey, if I use this, because we also have a fragrance called bourbon, right? And it doesn't have bourbon in it, but it smells kind of like spices. And we get questions all the time like, hey, if I use this, am I going to get a DUI like driving on my way to work?
But now you can actually get out of those wet clothes and into this dry body wash. Get into this good old body wash. That's
right.
Great. That's a great marketing strategy.
Yeah.
Really.
So the only product I worked on where the packaging actually took longer than the product to develop. But.
So from the shaving cream, the thing that you've expanded into the most is the beard care. Is that right?
Yeah.
But you said that the women's
line is growing.
So single product, our women's shave cream is the number one product. But as a collection, as a line, our beard care line, and I will say, that's probably a function of the beard care category not being as big, not having those big players in it already. All these other categories we're in, we're the small guy, right? We're up against the Gillettes, the Proctors, the Unilevers. But in beard care, because it was so small and developing when we came into it, we've just established ourselves as the big.
And how do you market outside of barbershops, et cetera?
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about doing celebrity endorsements or athlete endorsements? And who would you want? And how would they be compensated?
So I might get kicked out of this room. Actually did a big partnership with the Red Sox, and I apologize. I'm sorry. I know you guys are New York guys.
He's a Yankee fan. I ain't.
Okay. All right. But we were like, hey, we got to do like a big partnership.
Well, it makes sense to do the Red Sox. That was a good choice.
Yeah, well, it was, and it was cool. I'd watch Sox games. I'd see our name behind home plate, but. We were.
Why Sox? Why does it make sense?
Because they all had beards. They were the first team to embrace beards.
And that's why we did it. We get off. I mean, even small companies, you get offers all the time from these teams. We chose the Red Sox because they were known at that time for the big beards. But I think we kind of took a leap too fast.
Mm-hmm.
If you see Budweiser or Coca-Cola or McDonald's, you know what that is. That's all they need to do to advertise. We had a story to tell. People didn't know what Cremo meant. And even to this day, only 20-30% of people in the room know what Cremo actually is. And so
that would be good.
Yeah,
20% knew what Cremo was in a room.
Yeah,
I mean, in this room.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah, but at the time, I mean, back at that time, it was like and I'd go to a party. I was all excited to work with this brand, and no one knew it. No one knew what it was. So. Just the name alone, it wasn't enough. You have to tell a story. And that's why I think podcasts are great. Radio is actually good. Influencers on social media, because you have the platform to talk a little bit more about the brand, about the products. And so I think what we found was that the Red Sox were great for if you're Gillette, but for Cremo we had to take a step back. So what we did was we actually
because Gillette's in their backyard.
Yeah, and it's just too big too fast, and so. We decided like let's do a lot of influencers, but they don't have to be as big as the Red Sox. So we that's where we got into barbers. We said these guys have a lot of credibility. Guys like barbers; they trust them. They're experts, but they're accessible, and that's kind of how we build our.
You actually call your products Barber Grade. I'm sorry.
No, good.
You call it Barber Grade.
Yeah,
I mean, that to me means something.
Yeah.
I shave just about every morning. Maybe every other morning. Like today, I got away with one, but. My face is so beaten up from what they did to me in the service, I could just, rattle it off.
Right.
But still, I spend a lot of money on the right razor with the vibrator, the $49 for 4 blades, and this saves you money.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, I think shaving and grooming in general just used to be something you had to do. I mean, you talked about it was painful. You didn't want to do it. One of the first when I came into Cremo, one of the most amazing things we had fans at Nestle, but it wasn't like this. We had a guy call. And he said, I've been shaving for 40 years. I've never, ever enjoyed it. And he's like, I actually look forward to it. He wrote a song. He wrote a 2.5-minute song singing about how much he loved Cremo and about how much he loved shaving. It's like, this is unbelievable. Like, This is like that. I mean, honestly, it made selling the brand easy because we go into these buyers and people love the product so much. But that's like a big thing, and I think barbers kind of do that too. Like if you go to a barber, it's a good experience. You actually, right?
Exactly.
You
I mean,
enjoy
it's
it.
like it's like when we get pedicures, we get a pedicure occasionally.
Yeah.
They get manicures. But I used to go to a barber and get a haircut and say, you know what? Let me get a nice shave.
Yeah.
And they, put the hot towels over you for a while to soften your skin.
Yeah.
And they give you a nice close shave, and it's a good experience.
I mean, a barber's nothing more than a men's beauty salon, right? I mean, it's it's different in some ways, but it's really a place you go and you can kind of. It's the only place really you can go and just kind of relax and we actually talk a lot about how barbers are kind of substitutes for psychiatrists, right? Like you can talk about your problems
in the black community. It sure is.
I mean,
barbershop.
Yeah, and guys are talking to each other. You're I got this issue, whatever it is. And that's something that we wanted to associate our brand with. Like we want to be experts, we want to be credible, but we also want to be a brand that people feel comfortable with. It's approachable. It's a nice place to be. So we talk. We do a lot of work with barbers, and we actually support barbers. So speaking of psychiatrists, kind of on a serious note, like we realize that barbers are actually a place where guys feel comfortable if they have a serious issue, like they're thinking about doing something serious. And we support barbers actually to provide resources to say, hey, if you're really having a problem, call this number, and so that's
interesting. I never really thought of a barber as being like a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm Irish, so it was always the bartender.
Yeah.
You work as the bartender, and why pay $200 an hour when you can tell this guy, yeah, my wife's a pain in the ass.
Yeah. Well,
and the bartender give you,
yeah. But the bartenders and barbers are converging, right? Because you go to a barber today. I don't know if you've been to one lately, but they'll give you a beer, or, they'll give you a bourbon or something. So they really.
Which reminds me, you have a bourbon.
Yeah.
We've already talked about that. Have you been in
bourbon? No, we didn't say the word bourbon.
Yes, we did. Have you
said
been
the word
involved?
bourbon?
Have
Have
you
we
been
said the
involved
word
in this
bourbon?
interview at all?
Yes, I'm here.
Are you paying attention at all?
I'm here. I'm absorbed. I'm here.
You roll the tape back about 10 minutes, and he was speaking
was the
about
word
bourbon.
mentioned here?
Yes, it was.
I thought I would have picked up the word bourbon.
Yeah, we do. I mean, bourbon is kind of picked up as it's been.
Man, smell.
Oh yeah, I mean, the spirit, the liquor side of it is growing like crazy. We got really into bourbon, and there's some really nice kind of aspects to bourbon. It's got some nice spice and vanilla. It picks up from the barrel, and so we experimented a little bit and put that into some of our products. Those notes. It's been really successful. We've got a whole bourbon line. And it's actually one of our best-selling fragrances. So,
and you're advertising on the Colin Cowherd show now too.
We are, yeah. So again, I like sports radio. That's a great venue for us because A, it's our audience, but B, the host can talk about the brand, talk about the products. It's not just flashing our name up and that's it. You got a story to tell.
That's great.
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us a little about your family life? You married the beautiful and talented.
Yeah.
Kelly Center, now Kelly Center Biggins.
That's right. Yeah.
She was a great soccer player at Sacred Heart. She was most valuable player of the Mission League.
Oh, did you coach her, Frank?
No, but I hired her out of Vanderbilt to be a production assistant on George Lopez.
Oh, really?
And then she smartened up and she went to law school. She smartened up and went to law school and became a powerhouse attorney, and they had 2 children. Ava and Hudson.
Yep.
And she gave up law school to be a full-time mother.
Yeah, which is probably her hardest job that she's had, right?
Yes, and the most important.
Yeah. But I mean, going back. So first of all, talk about those moments in your life changing. That's you are and continue to be a mentor to her. But she always looks back at that kind of entertainment. Yeah, I know.
Derek, Derek, they're at it again.
But I probably, like all of us, I hit way over my out of my league with her. She's a great person, great mom.
You got the family photo, Derek?
Yeah. So this is actually up by where you live.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's a great picture, man.
You got the Cremo beanie that my daughter, so that's my daughter Ava and my son Hudson. But we've had a great experience as a family so far. We're really all about finding adventure and giving the kids a fun.
And how many years you married now, man?
11 years.
Wow,
Well, it's actually 12 years. Sorry.
It's 12 years.
12 years. And we just had our anniversary.
12 years already.
Yeah.
You're in trouble now.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully Kelly doesn't listen to this.
That's a great picture.
Yeah.
It is a great picture.
Yeah.
He asked me if I wanted a more formal picture. I said, hell no. That's a great
No, the
picture.
smiles say it all. I mean, the smile lights up the whole picture.
And I'll give him credit. How long have you lived in your house now?
So that's been 11 years because we moved in right after.
You lived in your
Yeah.
house 11 years.
Yeah.
You probably got a little taste of that 235 million.
Yeah.
I guess, but you haven't.
Love this neighborhood. I think you kind of expect when you go through something like that for your life to change the next day, and it doesn't really. I mean, it's a number in a bank account. It's nice, but I love what I do. So I continue to work on Cremo and with a new company. And, what I say is that it wasn't something I can go retire on, but it's something that gives me a little freedom, right? And I can do what I want to do. I can kind of play a little bit more on my terms. For now, we're just kind of staying put. And
that's what it's all about, my friend. That's what it's all about. Hey, in closing, Derek, you have any thoughts or questions for Matt, Billy?
I have
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Derek.
No, you go ahead, Billy.
I got a quick question, and this is from just corporate ignorance. I have no idea about corporations and the structure and everything else. What is the difference between the CMO and then you became a CEO and the president?
Yeah.
Is not CEO and president the same thing? What is a CMO?
Yeah, great question. So CMO is Chief Marketing Officer.
Okay.
Typically in a company, they typically manage, of course, advertising, which is just one part of marketing. A lot of people think advertising and marketing are the same, but marketing is a pretty broad term. It really entails advertising, yes, but also product development, analysis of financials that go behind a brand. You're really kind of almost running a business in itself. So the CMO's responsibility is really, managing all the brands, product development, oftentimes, and advertising. A president, it runs the company, but more on a day-to-day basis. So they're in the weeds, they're in the field, hands-on decisions, operational decisions.
This is the kitchen.
Yeah,
you're in the kitchen.
You're in the kitchen, right? The CEO is really kind of at 30,000 feet, right? They're thinking about the vision, the strategy. They're thinking not today what's happening, but what's going to happen next year. What are we going to be 3 to 5 years down the road? Right. They're the public face. They're dealing with the board. So it's a little bit different and nuanced between the president and CEO. Our company is so small that I did both. I started as CMO. That's how I was hired. But eventually the guys trusted me enough to make me president, and then they gave me the CEO title.
So I think we haven't talked about this yet.
Yeah.
But did you tell us that you negotiated this 235 million sale on Zoom?
Yeah. Yeah. Someday I'm going to write a book. Someday I'm going to write a book about I sold a company during a pandemic over Zoom, because we did. We wanted to. We started talking about it and doing it before COVID hit. We started talking to companies, and then everything shut down. Pencils were down. No one was doing deals. It's actually an interesting story. Edgewell, the company we were acquired by, they were locked up in a deal with Harry's. So Harry's is the direct-to-consumer shave brand, grooming brand, and they were going to buy Harry's for like $1.4 billion. It was like a bet the company type acquisition, because Edgewell's not that big. It's a $2 billion company. So it was a highly leveraged deal. It was like the Harry's guys were going to come in and run Edgewell. Actually, it's a big deal. 9 months into it, the FTC killed it. They said it was going to be too big, and it was going to be, kind of like a monopoly in shave. And so they killed the deal. And so Edgewell all of a sudden was left,
You said the FTC killed it?
FTC, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, it was this big deal, and that fell apart, and we weren't even thinking about Edgewell because they were buying Harry's. And Edgewell came to the table and said, "Hey, our strategy is we're looking for a masstige grooming brand, and yes, COVID's going on, but let's talk." And kind of one thing led to another.
There's that luck thing again.
Yeah, no, I'm telling you, never thought that. Who would have known in March or April last year that we were going to get anywhere close to selling a company in that environment. We had a lot of Zoom meetings. When I say that we sold the company over Zoom, it sounds like they didn't do their homework. They did they probably did more diligence than they would have otherwise, because it was COVID and because all eyes, Wall Street, the board was, they want to make sure that this was a good decision. So I had meetings all day for months, diligence meetings to make sure that, the deal was good, solid. We were a solid company, and yeah, we sold the company over Zoom. So
Would you say the time frame was different? You know what I mean? Like like in person time frame versus over Zoom.
Yeah, I think it probably took a little. But well, in the scheme of things, some of these deals take years to actually finalize.
Right.
So relative, it was pretty quick. But I would say because it was over Zoom, because we had to do more of those diligence meetings, we couldn't just knock it out in in-person meeting. By the way, this company's in Connecticut too, so I was waking up at 5 a.m. for these calls.
Right.
But yeah, I would say it took probably a little bit longer because they have to do their homework. You've got to make sure you're buying something solid and legit. So yeah, but it was a great experience. I mean, I think it was pretty unique and had a good outcome.
Agreed to stay on for 5 or 10 year period, or what's how was that structured?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't. There was no kind of mandate like, hey, you have to sign on to do this deal. But to be honest, there's a lot of things at Cremo that we couldn't do on our own. International razors are now on the table because we have a partner who actually makes great razors. DTC, so doing something like Harry's and Dollar Shave Club, where we're on our website, and we do that, but we just didn't have the resources to focus on it. We can do that now, and so that's kind of excited me. And I want to continue on this ride, leverage those resources, but also manage a small brand, and it's kind of a nice mix of both worlds. So yeah, there's some incentives, things like that, but really I'm doing it because I want to do it.
Well, it's an exciting story.
Yeah, let me jump in just a second, just to give a couple more nuggets to the audience. So, I mean, the real story here is ultimately the brand, but the secondary story is you took this brand from a very small number to a significantly large number. So I want to just pick your brain a bit about how you became such a good marketer, and so one of the things would be like, would you recommend any books to the audience that you read over that time? Maybe like the top three books that you read.
Oh, you're putting me on the spot.
Well, that's okay. You can think about it, and I have a couple other questions. So
and maybe I'll follow up on the books.
Okay.
But first of all, I have to say that this wasn't all just about me. So first of all, the founders they had built this brand, they got the product into retailers, they kind of got their foot in the door, right? But the other thing that I was fortunate to be able to do is to build my team. And, I was kind of like, I'm not smart enough to do finance, to run finance operations, that kind of stuff was out of my league a little bit. So, but I was smart enough to hire people that, were smarter than me. And so I actually did, I had this management team, 2 out of the 4 of my executives actually ran companies, and had done it for 20, 25 years. Every single executive on my team was more experienced at being an executive in a CPG company than I was. And I was okay with that. Like, it's kind of like, you got to let your ego you got to put that aside and say like, look, do I want to be in control of everything and probably not do as good of a job? Or do I want to admit that I'm not as great in those areas?
That's a good nugget.
I think I think in any business, not just marketing, I think the intuitive thing is I'm not great in this area. So I got to develop that and I got to focus on that. But if you think about the most successful people in the world, they doubled down on their strengths and they hired for their weaknesses. Right. And I think that's a big learning that I've had. And then I think that in terms of marketing, it's really, it's so much of it comes down to getting yourself into someone else's shoes. So if you're designing a product or a brand and you're only thinking about yourself, that's not going to fly. You got to really get into the shoes of who it is you're trying to sell a product to, and what do they want. And it really does psychology gets into it, and you really have to get in their minds and understand what are they going to like, what do they want. Often, like women's shave cream, I don't use women's. I mean, I don't shave my legs, so I got to kind of get in those shoes. Like, what would be important? I think for once you've made the leap, or if you're in a small company environment, one of the biggest things I learned. I came from Nestle. We were the biggest company, biggest consumer products company in the world. We could go into suppliers, kind of bully them around a little bit. We had all the leverage. You don't have that when you have a startup, right? Like you're small. And one of the Mike, one of our founders, he taught me, hey, treat everyone like a client. Whether it's a supplier or a vendor, obviously a customer, a retailer, whoever it is, treat them with respect, treat them with dignity, and build a relationship. Don't make it transactional. And so that's been a big part of our success is, even our suppliers, even if there's issues, there's some tough conversations sometimes, but we treated them like they were our clients versus the other way around. And we treat our buyers at retailers the same way. We put a lot of weight on their opinion, their feedback. Oftentimes they help shape our products. And I think they recognize that, and we get a lot of favors and love.
A lot of that sounds like old school marketing.
It is, yeah.
How do you interject social media into that?
Yeah, I think the principles and fundamentals of marketing are the same, no matter what the platform is. So, it's just a new way. It's doing the same thing that you did in the past with TV or radio. It's just doing it in a different way. It's all media. I think one thing that has changed is that consumers, people in general, even me personally, I'm just not as receptive to ads. If it feels like an ad, it's just not
right.
You turn off kind of. And so it's a challenge, right? Like if you want to connect with someone, you've got to do it in a way that's entertaining, in a way that they want. Not only that, but the hard part about social media is you're not just competing against other shave or grooming companies, you're competing against everything.
Right.
I mean, how many different brands, companies, entertainment, media are trying to get to you for your attention? And so that's the hardest part about social media now, is that you're competing against everybody just for a little piece of
interesting
mind space. Yeah. But it's a great way to connect.
So you got to grab them right off the bat. How do you? The lead is again, you got to grab them.
Yeah. Well,
make it personal.
Right. Yeah. The key is it's not a one-way thing. We're not just saying, hey, go buy our product. We're creating a relationship, and I think that it's not just lip service. Like we take the feedback we get from our consumers really seriously, and it's a two-way thing. Like we're all in this kind of together. Like this is your brand as much as it is my brand. It's not. I don't own the brand. It's all of ours. It sounds a little cheesy, but I think that it's important because people want to feel like they're part of something. They want to feel that personal connection. And I think big brands sometimes lose that a little bit, it becomes like this big thing that you don't really have a connection to. But we at our largest, Cremo is a 30-person company. So we really are answering phone calls and emails. We're developing products in our house, and that just inherently becomes a personal thing with consumers. So I think that's what resonates and has made us successful.
Awesome.
Well, you're the greatest actor that I ever met in my life, or you really, really believe in this company.
I do, yeah.
Product.
No, I mean, I think that that's kind of like taken for granted a lot of times, is that in sales or marketing that, you really have to believe in it. And, like I said, Nestle, great company, great products. I believed in all their products, but there's a point where I kind of woke up one day and I was like, I'm not as passionate about this as I once was. And with Cremo, I got so excited by this product that, you go into a retailer, you're selling this line, or you're talking to a consumer. If you believe in it, it's gonna show.
Well,
and
your enthusiasm is contagious.
Yeah.
I actually, the greatest thing I heard you say all day, which would make me run out and grab this stuff immediately, was a guy wakes up and looks forward to shaving.
Yeah, no,
that's
totally.
like, wow, that's a mind boggler.
Yeah, and I had a mentor one time say that you can be a good marketer in any category. You can sell bleach, and if you're passionate about marketing, you'll do a good job. I could do that, but I don't want to. I love marketing things that I really believe in and I love and I use personally. You still have to get in the mind of your consumer, so you can't just rely on what you like. But it really helps if you're passionate and excited about what you're doing.
Well, how can our viewers find out more about Cremo? What's the website?
Yeah, so CremoCompany.com. You can find our products in Walmart, Target, drugstores, Amazon. We've got depending on the day, it changes. We usually have the .1 shave cream on Amazon. And you can go to our website, buy our product. So we're pretty much everywhere now.
And the website is cremo.com.
CremoCompany.com.
Cremo Company.
Yeah,
See,
yeah.
we threw that in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Billy would have just said, how do you spell company? K or C? CremoCompany.com.
Yeah, not Cremo.
Not
And
Cremo.
if you're on Amazon anyway, keep an eye out for Lamar's Gamble.
And, if these lips could talk.
Yeah.
And if these lips could
Maybe
talk.
we could do a bundle or something. You get some shave cream
this
in the
is the
books.
guy we need.
We'll do it.
Yeah, let's do it.
We'll sign on. We'll do that.
We'll sell you the two noses.
I like it.
Get
I
the
like
two
it.
noses. You want a nose? I got a nose. I can smell that stuff you're selling from Chicago with this nose.
Thanks so much for coming in, Matt. It was really a pleasure to have you.
Hey,
Great
thanks for having
interview.
me.
Great interview.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's
Really
been a pleasure.
informative about marketing.
I hope
man.
so.
Some great
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you very much.
Good.
Say goodnight, Billy.
Good night. Good night. Good night out
Good
there.
night, Derek.
Good
Good
night.
night,
Good
Derek.
night, Matt. Good night, Frank.
Next week's guest, two-time Super Bowl champion and actor Dwight Hicks.
We'll see you next week.